the doors. I can see you're all joining us. Hello everyone. I expect more people will join over the next couple of minutes, which is absolutely fine. So as it is 11 o'clock, we better get started. So, yeah, hello everyone. Welcome today to this Church Urban Fund webinar, which is on supporting older people in our community. So if we haven't met before, my name is Amy. It's nice to meet you, and I'm going to be joined this morning by 5 fantastic people from around Cut Together Network who are kindly going to share with us their expertise, their learning and their pointers for us in the varied work that they're doing in this area. So whether your church is already engaged with older people, perhaps through running a specific program or a project, or whether you're finding that you're welcoming more older people through your doors at the moment and you want to do more to support this, which is an often undervalued section of your community, we hope that you will find this session really interesting, useful, and we hope that it'll spark some ideas off for you. As we only have this 1 hour together this morning, it is going to be quite a quick moving session. So we're going to hear from each of our contributors in turn, and then we'll have 10 minutes or so at the end of the session for questions. So as our contributors are speaking, please do post your questions in the Q&A area. So you should be able to see somewhere on your screen, it might be at the bottom, it might be at the top, that says Q&A. If you can't find it, that's okay, pop it in the chat. I just don't want to overwhelm the chat with questions, which can sometimes happen. And before we jump in, I just have to let you know the session is being recorded, but don't worry, your faces won't be visible on the recording. And we'll send out that recording to you afterwards so that you have it and you can watch it back. And we'll also pop it on our website so you can direct anyone else there who can't make it today. So let's get started proper. Our first contributors this morning, which I'm delighted to introduce, are Julie McGee and Jan Hodgson, and they lead on Together Middlesbrough and Cleveland's incredible intergenerational work. So over to you both, and I'll move the slide along. Yeah, if I can. There we go.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Julie McGee, and as Amy has explained, I'm going to be working with Jan this morning. So next slide, please, Amy. Okay, so the name of our project, quite a zany little name, it's called Brian, and that means brighter lives through intergenerational activity and neighbourhood. And as we work through our slides, I hope you'll see what that comes to mean for you. The Brighter Lives is reference to the kind of funding stream that we came from. Jan and I did work a couple of years ago, pre-pandemic, on intergenerational activity, and what we found there was that actually neighbourhood within that is really important, linking people together around places that they actually live and perhaps work as well. So as you can see, we're funded for 12 months, and that 12 months will come to an end at the end of July this year. So it's coming close, it's coming soon, and our main focus, in order to try and leave a legacy behind us when the project ends, has been to train and develop as many people as we possibly can in our area. So at the moment, it looks as though we'll train about 70 people during the course of the year. And they've come from, care homes, schools, community groups, all sorts of things. We've encouraged our groups to get carried away with their projects and supported them. Made lots of new contacts, as you can see there. I recently joined a new group that's being set up, which is called Generation All, and that's part of the Beth Johnson Foundation, and it's looking at research and development, particularly in England, around intergenerational practice. So it's new, it's very exciting, and we hope we're going to get more information out from there. And as you can see, we want our work to carry on. May not be Jan and I, but hopefully it will be those people that we've been training with. Thanks, Amy. So what's it all about? What does it mean? I've put up there a definition for you that we use in the course of our training. And you can see it's all about bringing people together in activities which have got a sense of purpose, so they don't just kind of drift along and bump into each other. It's around creating something that we want that is going to be meaningful to the participants that are in there. We want it to be beneficial to all our participants, and it can be children, it can be young people working with older people in the community, it can be those links that you've seen perhaps on the television around 4-year-olds visiting care homes, it can be mentoring programs, shared housing, all sorts of activities that bring older and younger people, different generations together. And what we want it to be about is about developing that greater understanding and that respect between generations. So we have a focus in our training on ageism, what that looks like, kind of ageism against young people and older people there as well. And we want to bring our generations together and ultimately bring those more cohesive communities. We see often reference to division, you know, Gen X versus Gen Y and whatever. We want to actually break down those divisions and bring people together. So we want our work to be inclusive. We really want to use, you know, all of the positive resources that children can bring, all the positivity that staff can bring, and all the positivity that older people can bring to the work that they're doing together. Young and old people have got so much to offer each other and those around them, and that's what we're working towards. And you'll see that that definition came from the Beth Johnson Foundation. We're going to leave you some websites at the end of this presentation, but it's still very much used in terms of intergenerational practice. So some examples there.
So,
I think you're going to on these.
I think that's me, Julie, now.
Yeah.
So I'm Jan, and we work together, Julie and I. And so we thought we'd give you some of the examples that we've done with different kinds of groups. So we've given you the names of the titles. So the Winter Wonderland group was actually a school coming together with a community there. A friend that they knew who was sort of elderly or an older person, and they came together in the church hall, and we actually did a lovely set of crafts and things, as well as did some cooking, and then everybody sat down and ate a meal together. You know, the children weren't separate, the children sat with their person that they and it was really a lovely experience for them all. Then the Girls Express was actually a school that is in a sort of multicultural area, and they'd actually bid. They, you know, year sixes usually do a sort of bid for charity, and their bid wasn't quite done, but they didn't stop. They decided they were going to write to their MP and say, we think there should be more activities for older adults. And we got to know about this. So we went and did a lot of chat with them and linked up with our local care home. And they went along with their tea, and they went along with cakes that they made. And just actually, they were very stunned when they went. But it was a really lovely experience. The adults loved the fact that the children had come along. The Memories of Middlesbrough was actually during lockdown. Julie and I ended up doing befriending calls, and we spoke to about 20 isolating adults each. And what we found was over the weeks, they started to tell us their stories. And when lockdown kind of opened up a little bit, we connected with a secondary school called UCA in Middlesbrough, and their history group. Then we zoomed in with them, and they asked the adults talked about their life story, and the children went off and researched it. We didn't manage to get them together because I think Omicron happened again, and unfortunately that didn't work, but we actually developed a book from that. Autumn Changes, we actually have made links with a special needs school with adults with special needs, and that worked really, really well. The adults with special needs kind of advocated on behalf of the children. They worked really well together, and even one of the group of adults with special needs led one of the sessions because he's an amazing artist, and we had a great time in the school. And we did it around the theme of autumn. We've also been working multicultural, and we adapted our training course to be able to share with the local asylum seekers and refugee ladies on the course, and that was really good, because what we realised was actually there's a potential to do not just intergenerational work locally, but across countries. You know, if you zoom in with other relatives who are far away. Brecon Hill activities, the Holiday Activities Fund, we were able to go in and link with a care home and a sheltered accommodation, and they came and had a meal, and then the children worked with the adults. We actually all made daffodils because it was near Easter, and again it was fantastic to see those adults. And then we've had some singing in school where a care home has been invited into a school. Amy, next page please. So we found this slide that tells us about the benefits, and we've seen the benefits. The benefits of not working what are called monocultural mean that actually you get that skill sharing and that learning. We find it does reduce social isolation and loneliness. It also challenges those stereotypical views and reduces ageism. We find that actually it builds friendships and some social connections. And it actually creates opportunities for generations to come together in ways that maybe they've never done before. You know, we're very much a sort of separate society almost. We do that and they do that. But actually working intergenerational brings all generations together. And that, in effect, creates that understanding and sharing of their experience. It's amazing, you know, you think about football, it's across all generations. We had a lady who was in the 90s who loved Middlesbrough Football Club, and the children of UCA love Middlesbrough Football Club too. Really good. Next slide, please. So we're going to leave these questions. Just thought when we send the slides up, they're the sort of questions that maybe you can ask yourselves. Where could you go? Can you look at what you could do next and how to do it? And then the last slide is those websites. There we are, that's my time up. But the next slide is some useful websites, which Jamie will send to you, but they're the ones that we found very useful. So have a look and do your own research on them.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Julie and Jan. I've given everyone a very hard job today of putting like an incredible amount of work and trying to convey that into 9 minutes each. So thank you so much, Jan and Julie, for that. Yes, I will send around anything that's been mentioned as well as the slides themselves to you all afterwards. So don't worry about having to write anything down. A reminder to you, please, if you have any questions, do drop them in as we go to the Q&A button. If you can see it, and if you can't, do feel free to use the chat and we can pick them up at the end. It's no stupid questions, anything that you think of, just drop it in there. Okay, so next up, our next contributor is Sarah Thorpe. So Sarah is Dementia Friendly Church Enabler at Strengthening Communities, which is in the Diocese of Lichfield. Thank you so much, Sarah, for coming to share with us. I'll hand over to you now, if that's okay.
Yes, Amy, thank you for the welcome. So I'm working on dementia friendly churches, and dementia is part of every community, so it's part of every church community, and it touches us all in different ways. I wonder if for you there's a particular person or people, a particular story that just is in your heart as we focus on dementia together. Across all age groups, about half of us say that it's the health condition we fear the most. So how important for us as people of faith, believing that perfect love casts out fear, that we are present in this zone. So just naming dementia together in a church is a big step, and it does something to chip away at the historic stigma that surrounds dementia. And it can unlock lots of stories and as well, lots of strong feelings. So our dementia friendly church network across the Diocese of Lichfield has been going for 10 years, and we work together to stay in step with people in our churches and in our communities through advancing dementia. someone living with dementia locally told us, these are her words, "I don't want to be pitied, I want to be understood." And it feels really important to hear that. We found that a bit of awareness and understanding goes a long way in helping us to journey alongside one another through the challenges of dementia. It's not an easy journey, and we can learn from one another and we can support one another. So my role as Dementia Friendly Church Enabler is to support churches that are taking steps to become more dementia friendly. And we share ideas, we share experiences, we share resources, so that none of us has to reinvent the wheel and none of us has to go it alone. And we encourage churches to identify 3 actions on dementia that they can take in the next 12 months. And we put these into a certificate. Those are all actually signed by our Bishop of Lichfield, who says he's proud to be part of a diocese that takes Dementia Friendly Church seriously. And we've got more than 100 churches across the diocese taking action on dementia. So we're coming together and we're supporting one another so that we're becoming more able to stay in step with people affected by dementia, and we're learning together across the network. So the lessons, the takeaways from our experiences that might apply to all of us in our work with older people, I've just summarised three points there. The first is that we travel step by step. So it's a process, and it's about hanging around in the zone, if you like, for the long haul. Particularly through the pandemic, we recognise that bite size is best. That's what's manageable. So we love to focus on what we can do and what we will do. And that picture of a prayer in a churchyard is from a church in Shropshire I was talking to recently. There at full stretch, plus a small team of church members shouldering increasing responsibilities. And they've done what they can. So they put up in the churchyard that prayer about dementia, actually written by a carer, and they've taken that step positively. So they're not wasting their energies lamenting what they can't do. They are taking the step they can, and just being open to the connections that opens up. So then secondly, listening to lived experience. We don't need to be the experts, we need to be open to learning. So Clive and Barbara there, Clive has a diagnosis of dementia. And when we just ask people, what's helpful or what's difficult for you at this stage, we learn so much. So Clive said, I was asking him about the diagnosis of his dementia, and he said, every diagnosis is like a bereavement. And then he went on in the next breath, the next sentence, to say, but it's not an end, there's a life to live. And I just think there's such wisdom in those words. I've learned so much from Clive and Barbara. And if we can just ask those simple questions, we can all learn so much together. So we want to have space to listen to lived experience. And then thirdly, learning new dance steps together, because of course patterns change over time. Dementia is a progressive disease. So it makes all the difference if we know one another well, if we share our stories and journey together as we can as church communities over the weeks, the months, the years. And the final picture is from a memory cafe that I was at recently at a church in Staffordshire. And I was just so struck by how well they know the people who come and what brings life to each one of those. So one's a carer in the background, and for her, that conversation is really important week by week. Another's a woman who loves playing Scrabble, that brings life to her. And they've realised they have to start the Scrabble game early because she likes to finish the game. And there's another group that meets in church later. They know her and they know that's life-giving. And when we know one another in that way, then when patterns are changing, we can adapt and adjust together to find life round the next corner, to find the new dance step if we're faltering in one that's that's needing to be adjusted. So I think those three things are some of the deeper learning that we've got by journeying together and becoming more dementia-friendly church. And finally, the final slide, there are some more resources there. So we've got our website where we're glad to share our approach and resources. Do have a look at that if you'd find that helpful. And we also share a newsletter, and I'm more than happy to share that with you if you'd like to receive that. Just email me if that's helpful.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sarah, for talking us through that. And you're slightly under time. Thank you. Okay. Yes, thank you for this person who's put a question there. Reminder, if you've joined us recently, you can put questions as we go along in the Q&A box. There should be a button on your screen for Q&A. So do put them in and we'll answer them at the end. So on to our next contributor. I'm very pleased to be able to introduce Angela Cayley, who is Operations Manager at Linking Lives. And they're a national charity who work with churches to implement befriending approaches, often with older people. So I'll hand over to you now, Angela.
Oh, great. Thank you, Amy. Yeah, really good to be here this morning and to be able to share with you some of what we've learned so far about working with older people and what works well. So yeah, just to introduce Linking Lives first, briefly. I think it's the next slide, Amy. Oh, brilliant, thank you. Some of you may already have heard of us, but if not, I'll just introduce us briefly. So we're a national Christian charity, and we're a really small team. There's only about 5 of us. All of us are part-time, so it's a challenge, but yeah, we work really hard to address loneliness particularly among older people, but not exclusively. We have 3 aims really, which is to inspire individuals, to equip volunteers, and to support churches. And we have a range of resources available for each of these different groups. And I'll just go through those a little bit later on. Our strapline, as you can see there on the right, is improving quality of life through friendship. And yeah, that really kind of underpins everything that we do. Thanks, Amy. So to start with, we wanted to just look at what's going well and what we found works really well. And I couldn't come on this call and not talk about Two's Company befriending. That's really kind of where we've started and what our main focus has been on in the past, and still very much is really. So we have a resource called Two's Company Befriending, which is where a volunteer, usually from a local church, so a local church would decide to set up a Two's Company Befriending scheme locally, and they would recruit volunteers from the church or from the community or both, and then they would be matched with someone experiencing loneliness, and that person is often referred in by an external agency such as a GP, social prescriber, yeah, different agents like that. And then they're encouraged to visit them in their home or to call them on a weekly or fortnightly basis. And we have about 35 befriending schemes running around the country, various sizes. I think the smallest is about 3, has about 3 volunteers and 3 scheme members, and their biggest is around 80. So yeah, really significant impact, and the difference that it makes to people is really profound. On the next slide, I just wanted to show you a really quick film. This is from one of our befriending schemes. It's in Guernsey, of all places. I think that's our furthest south scheme. And yeah, it's 2 minutes, but it just kind of really captures the heart of Two's Company. And I think this was filmed last month, so really recent. Thanks, Amy.
Well, I'd like to thank Helen and Pam for talking to me today. I'm visiting with them, and Helen visits Pam. So can I ask, first of all, how did you hear about Linking Lives?
I was looking to do some volunteering locally, and I was online looking at the different charitable organisations, and my friend told me about Linking Lives locally, so I got in touch through that way.
Lovely, thank you. And Pam, can I ask you, what sort of things do you do together?
Just have lots of lovely chats about family, everyday life, put the world to rights, and also have a cup of coffee, and sometimes we go out and have fish and chips.
Oh, that sounds lovely. And I can tell that you both obviously enjoy it. So what do you think in particular, what difference has it made to you?
Well, it's brought me out where before I was stagnated, sitting, just watching television and waiting for bedtime, where now I've got something to do and the days are not long enough.
Oh, that's great. And Helen, what difference has it made to you, do you think?
It's lovely to hear Pam saying that. For me, I get as much out of it, I think, as Pam does. It's one of my favourite times of the week. I really look forward to coming and visiting and listening to Pam's stories. She's had an amazing life, and it's just improved my well-being, I think, as well as Pam's. So I would recommend it to anybody.
Oh, that's good to hear. So certainly you would encourage anyone to volunteer.
Yes, absolutely. If you're thinking about it, please apply. Please give it a go, because it's an hour of your week and it makes such a difference to somebody else, but also to yourself.
Well, that's really good to hear. Thank you both so much for talking this morning.
Great, thank you. So yeah, just a really encouraging video and snapshot of the difference that it makes. So just to pull out a few kind of really key things that we've learned, that you don't have to set up a befriending scheme to kind of do these things. So supporting older people, what have we learned? The idea of doing with and not to. So enable participation and empowerment when you come alongside someone, giving them the opportunity to choose, to share. Yeah, just that kind of coming alongside someone. Time equals worth. Just the time that we spend with people, when it's concentrated and it's devoted to them, it just instills so much sense of worth to them, and we can't ever really underestimate that. Create time for connection. So yeah, just encouraging people to create that opportunity to connect in whatever way, whether it's a call, going out, walking together, visit to their home. Keep it up if possible. This thing about being consistent and meeting or having a connection with someone over time is really powerful. Help bridge the gap, break down barriers to entry. So what we mean by that is, like that lady was just saying, she felt like she'd got stuck in a rut where she didn't want to go out, she'd kind of lost confidence, and that kind of thing. But the befriender just coming alongside her gave her that confidence to go out and to try new things and to meet other people, and that kind of thing can be really empowering. And then finally, pray for them. Yeah, we're a Christian charity. I think probably most people here are Christians. Not to underestimate the power of prayer for older people and the difference that can make. So just to move on, we've got quite a few resources that I'm just going to really briefly talk about. So the first one is around raising awareness and reducing stigma about loneliness. And we've produced recently 2 new resources. One is 7 common signs of loneliness. as you can see there. And then the next one is 9 stepping stones to overcoming it. And they're both available, both of them will be available on our website really soon. We developed them for Loneliness Awareness Week, which is just finished. And yeah, just to raise awareness and to break down the stigma around it. And then just to very briefly highlight a few of our key resources that are available for anybody, whether they, just in whatever sense they're involved in working with people. We have Good Conversations training, which is for anyone who wants to enhance their conversation skills. Its emphasis is on listening and reflecting back, especially useful for volunteers. It includes boundaries and signposting. It's for 2 hours online, and it's usually £5, but it is currently free if you book during June. So you can go onto our website, and there's more information on there. And then just to mention, we also have a monthly activity pack, which is downloadable. We email it out, it's an electronic version. It's really good for those who are housebound and that have active minds but not active bodies. It helps to create connections between readers. You can subscribe for £49 for the whole year, and then you can give it out to as many people connected with your local organisation, your church, as you want. And yeah, it's just a really good way of keeping in touch with people. And there's a free sample available at our website. And I've run out of time, but I just wanted to mention the Power of One resource that we have, which is a resource to help people come alongside someone who's experiencing loneliness. Some of you may have already been on that. It's run regularly as a 1-hour webinar. The next one is next Thursday. And it also includes short films and a PDF resource. And that's just, to kind of help people think about what they can do practically to come alongside someone experiencing loneliness. Thank you.
That was a wonderful.
I think that's all of it.
Thank you, Angela. Fantastic. And again, we will send around links to all of those different resources in the email when we follow up after this session. And yes, thank you for your questions that are coming through. Please feel free to add more questions if you have any questions specifically for Angela about any of those resources and what they're doing at Linking Lives. And now we're going to move on to our final contributor, who is Alexandra Drew. And we're delighted to have Alex here today because she is the lead officer at Faith in Later Life. And that, you might have heard of it, it's a charity who support churches in their ministries with older people. And I know they've set up a network of more than 700 church champions for older people across the country. So I'll hand over to Alex now, and I will spotlight you, Alex.
Thank you, Amy. Hi, everyone. It's great to see there's so many people interested in how we can support older people in our communities. So thanks ever so much for being here and for listening. So yeah, as Amy said, I lead the charity Faith in Later Life, and it's our mission to equip and inspire Christians to help older people have faith in later life through the work of the local church. So we do that through our network of church champions, as Amy's mentioned. Actually, since that piece of information, Amy, our network has grown to almost 1,000 church champions. So that's exciting. We've got almost 1,000 people around the UK who are being supported in their ministry among older people by us. And a church champion is a person who is often characterized by being the person who leads the seniors work in a church. And sometimes that's a paid role, sometimes that's a voluntary role, sometimes that's a leadership role, and sometimes it is far less recognized but no less important. And so often these are the people who organize the luncheon clubs, some of the coffee mornings, perhaps the outings that older people have together, or something as simple as the birthday card list among older people. So we call those people church champions, and we invite them to connect with us free of charge so that we can help them make the most of their very special ministry among older people. We know that this is important. Unlike the youth workers and the children's workers of our churches, the seniors workers aren't always receiving the recognition that they deserve. Not that they're in it for the high fives, But, you know, we all need to be encouraged and inspired in our work that we do day to day. And so that's what we're here for. We have a website full of resources which people can access. Some of that's our resources, and some of it is us signposting to other organisations like Linking Lives, for example. We're very passionate about many of the similar things that have already been said here today around loneliness, intergenerational ministry, and of course being dementia friendly. And we know that these things all have a huge value in the life of the church and in helping older people to flourish. So as well as the website, we resource our church champions through some training events every month. So every other month we have a speaker come and talk about a subject that matters to our church champions. So last month, for example, we had a session with Fee Costa on how we can use music to support our friends who are living with dementia. And next month we've got Ian Knox, one of our other ambassadors, coming to speak to us about how we can help older people to receive the good news of Jesus, and begin their relationship with him. So we have those kinds of events. We also have some networking events. We had one yesterday where a fewer number might gather together, a bit like a home group session, and be encouraged in their ministry. It's a great time to ask questions and get some support from each other and to share some ideas. Last night, somebody was saying that what a breath of fresh air it is to be among other people who are passionate about older people and who get it. And so that's what we're here for. We're here to bring those people together. We know that our church champions, and perhaps some of you who are not yet church champions, but you're doing some great work in your communities with older people, we know that you're having a massive impact on the lives of older people, in helping people to receive Jesus, in helping to help older people go deeper with Jesus in their discipleship, helping people to serve later in life, which we know is really important for having purpose and building friendships in teams. And we know that it reduces loneliness massively to have somewhere to go and to be a part of something. And we also are aware that people who our church champions are connecting with, they are more engaged with the life of the church as a result of the seniors' work that goes on. We know, for example, that there'll be lots of older people in our communities who we won't see on a Sunday. We might only see them at a coffee morning or at our knitting and natter group or luncheon club. And yet they count our church as their church. And so this engagement, which often increases through times of hardship, through bereavement, and as people need more and more support. So it's great that church champions are helping to make those connections and foster those relationships at that time. So I've been asked to share what are some of the big lessons I've discovered. I've been in the role since August. And I would say that when it comes to sharing the good news of Jesus or inviting older people to our churches, many older people are filled with misconceptions about what it means to be a Christian and what church is about. Many still think it's about tradition and following rules. I spoke with somebody recently who said that he couldn't possibly go to church because his parents didn't go to church. And so we know that people working with older people are helping to bust some of those myths, which is really important to do so because this is urgent work. And some people, especially older people, don't have long left to receive the good news of Jesus. So the more barriers that we can break down, the better. I've also learned that loneliness is a killer. I think there's a great quote somewhere, well, a terrifying quote actually, but a quote that says that loneliness is as bad for our health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And churches do a wonderful job in helping older people to have purpose and connection, as we've seen already in some of the other talks. In later life, people become more reflective. So whereas we may think that older people wouldn't be interested in hearing about Jesus or becoming part of our church, that's actually not always the case. And many people are very open. We know ageism is rife. and a lot of older people suffer with low self-worth, because whether it's at the doctor's surgery, in the housing department, or indeed in the workplace, they are not recognized as being people of great value. And so we have an opportunity, because of course the Bible says everything in contradiction to that. The Bible says that we have value for the whole of our lives, and we want people to know that, and churches are very good at doing that. And I've also learned that older people want to serve. I've recently heard of Betty, who said to her minister, she's in her late 80s, she told her minister, she said, "Don't put me in the corner with a cup of tea and tell me I can pray to support our church." She said, "I want to do something." And so we have a great chance to find out what it is people would like to do and what they're able to do, rather than focusing on what they're not able to do. I've heard of George recently. He's in his 80s, and in his 80s, he felt God called him into the Sunday school group to read Bible stories to the 2 to 4 year olds of all people, on a week-by-week basis. We also hear some sad stories. I've got a wonderful church champion, very able. Yes, she's in her 80s, but absolutely very, very capable, very gifted and experienced. And she offered the church's youth worker her support. She said, "What can I do to support you? I've got all this experience and I've got some time. How can I serve you as you serve the young people?" And he went away and thought about it. And when he came back, he suggested that she could wash the tea towels. And of course, she's not concerned about doing the small things. She's very humble in that. But what a wasted opportunity. What he should have done is find out more about her and make use of some of those incredible gifts that she has. So a few practical tips. How am I doing for time? 26 seconds. Oh my goodness. Small things can make a big impact. So, remembering an older person's name is a huge deal. And these things like birthdays and remembering the stories that were told last time. We encourage churches to celebrate the whole age profile of the church at the front, not just the younger people. We encourage people to listen to their older people, to hear what their passions are, and hear how Jesus is continuing them to call them in their lifelong ministry to make disciples. And we are also encouraging you, if you are a person with a heart for older people and some kind of ministry among older people in your church, come along and be a church champion, and so that we can resource and support you. It's free. You choose your level of engagement. At the minimum, you simply receive my newsletter once a month. At a maximum, you come along to all our events and apply everything that you've been learning. So that's all from me, really. You can find out more on our website. And if you ever would like to have a conversation one-to-one with me, I'd be delighted to hear from you.
Thank you so much, Alex. Wonderful opportunities to get involved there, and great resources on their website as well, which again we'll send around via email afterwards. So it's now time for our Q&A section. So we've got a couple of questions come through, but it's not too late to add them in if they're popping into your head now, for anyone or just a general question that you would like people's thoughts on. So first of all, I think this was a question. Oh yes, this was specifically around dementia. So Sarah, if you wouldn't mind answering this one. Someone's asked, to what extent do you want to reduce the belief that fear is a justifiable reaction? Do we need to educate ourselves about this?
Such a good question, and I think it's such a litmus test about whether people take a step forwards or a step back when there are things which are perhaps a bit unexpected. And that's where I think a bit of awareness can go a long way. It's not about having to become experts, but just sharing some nuggets of understanding so that we can all keep connections with one another. So I think we can work with and through the fear. That fear can be just a door opener to say, actually, there's some understanding we can share. There are some simple tools which really make a difference to have enough understanding so that you can orientate and to help you to be a non-anxious presence alongside somebody who's journeying through deep waters. So I think that fear is understandable, but it's always then taking the next step. And the bit about community journeying together, none of us has got to go it alone. So sometimes that moment when I know that my response, I could feel it was unhelpful. What else could I have done? And having a trusted community where you can just explore that and learn a bit more together and open up. Okay, how could my response help in that sort of situation? So that bit about we're learning together, we don't have to get it right all the time, but noticing the fear and seeing it as a door to that can be opened together to find that place of deeper love, I think is really important. Finding the connections through and beyond and deeper than the fear.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sarah, for that. Our next question, I think, was during Angela's section. So I think it's probably worth you answering this first, Angela. Do you DBS check your potential volunteers and offer training around safeguarding, etc.?
Yeah, really good question. We do. So, I mean, how it works is that the local church are responsible for recruiting their own volunteers. So we as a national charity don't recruit any volunteers. It would all be done locally by the church, but we provide full training for the coordinator on how to do that, how to do it safely. And we provide training for the volunteers as well. And yeah, we say absolutely that the volunteers do need to be DBS checked. The people that they're working with are probably by their very nature vulnerable adults. So it's really important that they are. As far as safeguarding training goes, we don't provide that as a national charity because the scheme is run locally by the church. It's really important for the local church to have ownership over that, and for the safeguarding training to follow their local safeguarding policies. And so that is done locally, but again, we provide advice on it. So I hope that answers those questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Angela, for that. Got another question here. I'm not sure if this is directed to someone in particular, but perhaps if any of you have experience here, you can answer and give any tips or experiences of what's happened. Do you have any experience of working with old people in care homes for that particular setting?
I'm happy to answer or have a stab at an answer if anybody else wants to follow. So yes, again, churches are great at sending in teams into care homes to deliver short services or to do sort of chaplaincy in pairs, and to go and encourage the staff there as well. So that just depends on how well a church is resourced. So some churches can send 2 or 3 people, you know, a piano player, a speaker and a befriender kind of person. Other people don't have all that, so they're using technology. And we know that other churches still are actually gathering together with churches together in their town, and they're kind of hatching a rota, a plan for the year where they split up the local care homes between them, and they gather together teams in that way to go and deliver. Some care homes are really open to this. They see it as a really important part of what they offer to their residents. Other people not so much, and so there are some churches that only kind of manage to get in for a carol service at Christmas time, but that, you know, that's all good too. So yeah, I've got if there's a specific question, I will give my best shot to answer it. But yeah, really encourage care home ministry. Again, it's urgent. These people living in care homes, they will not be attending church to hear the gospel, so we have to go to them and share the gospel and the love of Jesus right where it is they are. Sometimes that's in bed, sometimes it's in the lounge with their friends who live there too.
Thank you, Alex. Yes, Jan.
What Julie and I discovered when we were linking with care homes is actually you need to direct your communication to the right person. So if you just find most of their websites have got sort of generalized admin, a sort of email, but actually if you address things to the activity coordinators, then you're more likely to get a response and a reply. And we found as soon as we did that, they were so welcoming. They sort of said, oh yes, come in, oh that sounds fantastic, how can we help? And actually quite a few care homes have actually come on to our intergenerational training. So you know, there is a desire to kind of link into the community beyond the four walls of the care home.
Great, thank you, Jan. Julia, do you want to add anything on that?
No, just to emphasize what Jan is saying, try to get the right person. When you do that, you probably find a lot of enthusiasm. And, you know, again, just to reiterate some of the things that have been said by other people, it can be a very step-by-step approach. So it may be just the school goes and sings in a care home, and then that might develop into more significant activities of working together and building up those relationships. Yeah.
Yeah, great, thank you, Julie. Sarah, did I see your hand go up?
Yes, so for people affected by dementia, about a third are in residential care, about a third are living alone at home, and about a third are living with others at home. And although there are differences in each of those situations, and it's perhaps important to know which the person you're with is, which category, if you like, they're in, I think the essence of connection is the same, about recognizing God's present before we enter the encounter and being as fully present as we can ourselves, which sometimes means laying down other things that are preoccupying us, and just crafting space where we allow people to surface through whatever confusion surrounds them to be as fully present as they can themselves. And that's the same in all of those three categories, if you like, in any encounter.
Thank you, Sarah. But otherwise, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of our contributors today. So Julie, Jan, Sarah, Angela, and Alex. Thank you very, very much for sharing all those experiences and wisdom with us this morning around this topic. And thank you all for coming along as well. As I said, we will send around the recording, the presentation, all of those resources and links and websites and good stuff that's been mentioned will pop in the email as well. That should come out sometime within the next week, hopefully within the next few days. But please don't hesitate to get in contact with us if anything crops up in the meantime, if you have any questions. But otherwise, thank you for coming. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye, everyone.
Bye.